And after 3 days of drinking with Larry Love, I just get an inkling to go on home.
You might be a tadpole. You might be a hamster. You might be a piranha fish, a hubcap, an elastic band, a school student, an Oompa Loompa, or a vermicious knid. But either way, if you want to be an astronaut, or an apprentice, a xylophone player, or zookeeper, you're going to need an English GCSE. So, your coursework's done. That's 60% with your speaking and listening. And there's one thing to say, and one thing only. Whoopie-doo. Whoopie-doo. Well, that just leaves the exam. The good thing about this exam is you can't really revise for it. There's 2 questions. The first one's reading, and that tests your reading and understanding on a passage about this long. The second one is testing your writing, and again, that's related to the passage. The first questions are short, and the trick is to focus on exactly what's being asked about exactly which lines. So question A, which one word in lines 2 to 3 tells you that Christopher was not allowed to play near his father's study? That's asking you for one word in those lines. All the early questions are like that. You need to be careful about exactly what is being asked. Later questions are longer for more marks, and they ask you to explain things in your own words. Explain, using your own words, what Christopher tells you about his mother's character in lines 22 to 26. If you use the words in the passage, you'll lose marks. If you answer outside of those lines 22 to 26, you won't get any marks. To test your understanding, the passage might ask you to explain, using your own words, what the writer means by a phrase. For instance, G1, this nagging made me evasive. If you use the words in the quote, you won't get marks. You've got to explain what that means using other words. Another type of question asks you to choose some phrases from the passage and fill them in where it says phrase. Then you've got to explain how each of those phrases does something. In this case, it's asking you to explain how the phrases you choose create a picture of village life. So you need to be sure that the phrase you choose does create a picture of village life, so that you can explain how it does that. Normally the final question is a summary question, but you'll note it doesn't just ask you to summarise the passage. It asks you to write a summary of what the writer enjoyed about his train journey on the Khyber mail train. So it won't ask you for a summary, it will ask you to summarise one particular aspect of what you've been reading. The way to do this is to read the passage and mark it with your pen or a marker as you go through, and simply mark each bit that you can say he enjoyed as you read it through. When you've done that, you go back to the ticks and you simply summarise one tick, another tick, another tick in sentences. So the writer enjoyed this, and he also enjoyed that, and he also enjoyed that. You'll notice that these questions have 7 marks, so it's really important you get at least 7 points in that summary question. Question 2 is testing your reading and your writing. Half the marks here are for writing. So the question is asking you to do something related to the passage you just read. So here it's asking you to write a letter imagining that you are the character in the passage. It gives you very clear instructions. It won't always be a letter. It might be a newspaper article, it might be a diary entry, but whatever you're asked to do, make sure you base it on the passage and that you write clearly. This gives you 10 marks for your reading, which is based on the passage, and 10 marks for the quality of your writing. It's a 20-mark question, and it's important that you write about a page and a half. Hey kids, it's me. Follow me along, because I've got one little tip. Extra little super duper exam tip that no one must ever forget. Yes, they're taps. Taps. T-A-P-S. Taps. When you get to question 2, you've got to think taps. What text am I being told to write? Is it a letter, a leaflet, a journal? And make sure it's the right format. Okay? Secondly, you need to think, who's the audience? Who am I writing for? And make sure you write in a way that matches the audience. Thirdly, what's the purpose of what I'm writing? Why is it being written? Finally, and you won't get a C without this, you need to structure it. To structure it, you need to work out a plan. Probably a spider diagram. And probably you'll have an introduction, and then you'll work out where it goes next, where it goes next, where it goes next, and you'll probably write 5 or 6 paragraphs. But unless you plan it and use your brain to work out exactly what you're saying and when you're saying it, you won't get a C. If you splurge on paper, unfortunately, you won't do well. That's just about it for the English exam. If you've got time at the end, read the question again, fill in anything else you can, check your sentences. That's about it. Good luck.
And after 3 days of drinking with Larry Love, I just get an inkling to go on home. So I'm walking down Cold Harbor Lane, head hung low, 3 or 4 in the morning.